Cool. All right.
Episode 2.
Here we go.
We're
Episode
back.
2. So what's going on, guys? Again, I'm S.
I'm Jared.
And like you said, this is episode 2. And I guess today we're going to be talking about what it's like to be a solo filmmaker. So do you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah,
Based on the topics.
I think most of us are solo filmmakers in a sense. As far as I know you are. And I know that what's kind of cool is that we are in different ways. Like I do a lot of stuff where people hiring me kind of directly, like the client, and you work with a lot of like production companies and establish yourself that way. I think like being a solo filmmaker, I don't know how you would like really define who is a solo filmmaker and who isn't, but I think that's where like the videography terms fall in line. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two different sides of it.
Yeah.
You know, you got solo filmmakers and then you got people who work on sets who've got audio guys, gaffers, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess this episode we're going to touch base more on what it's like to be a solo filmmaker and what that entails, like I guess the type of gear that you need. And
yeah, because when you're doing solo filmmaking, it requires you to be able to do it all. We were talking a second ago and just you're the one-man band. Like you have to provide the audio, the lighting, the cameras, and everything that comes with.
a lot of hats.
A lot of hats to wear. And I think honestly, the part that comes the most stressful with that is managing all that. You know, the last time I did an interview and I have all that stuff set up, I'm having to talk to the guy and ask the questions. I'm having to make sure the audio is recording. I'm having to make sure the camera's still rolling. I'm not able to check the battery, you know? So it's like, there's a lot of things to juggle while trying not to look like you're juggling those things.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of times, you're having to, there's so many different things you have to focus on if you're having to be in charge of audio and lighting and your camera and a lot of things like that. It can be difficult because a lot of times early on, I would show up and I'd like, oh shit, I was filming everything in 30 frames. It's supposed to be 60 or whatever. And it's like, okay, let's switch that over. But you catch it on early on and stuff. But yeah, having to, focus on so many different things. A lot of the shoots that I show up on, I prefer to have like somebody there. Like if I'm doing interviews, I like to have somebody there asking the questions. So that way I can focus on all the things I need to focus on.
Agreed.
Because it's rough. Like we were supposed to do an interview this morning. And then you were going to be the one asking the questions, producing it, I guess, basically. But and then I was going to be able to focus on camera stuff. And
I think that's nice too, because like I think it's a good skill to do solo filmmaking. You kind of got to throw yourselves into the wolves. You learn a lot of skills. You do learn how to manage your time. And I always say one of the best things as a filmmaker to do is weddings, whether you want to do it long-term or not, because a lot of the times you are doing so much by yourself and you'll get to the point where you're working with a second person or you'll have a second shooter. But my first probably 10 weddings, I was completely by myself managing everything. And like, that's something that you have to learn to deal with while being able to capture those key moments and not mess everything up, which that's where most of my mistakes come from. It's just not really a mistake on my part, just more of I'm doing too many things at once and I can't handle all of it. But I think like when you're doing solo filmmaking, you are learning such a good skill. But like when we were going to do that interview today, like I was relieved to know that somebody was going to be staring at the camera, checking the audio, making sure everything's good. Even just looking at the picture and seeing, it could be 2 minutes into the interview and you're like, oh man, there's something back there that we need to move or whatever. It's like, you can't do that once you hit record by yourself. So solo filmmaking is a great skill, but being able to have somebody is really nice.
yeah, and like that's the way the whole industry is going too, is because, before a lot of the stuff that we shoot nowadays, you couldn't get away with doing that, solo as a one-man band. You have to have a sound guy or a gaffer and things like that. But nowadays, a lot of the equipment is so much more accessible. And so, we're able to get away with a lot of the stuff that we do and not have to go out and hire a lot of extra people. Not saying that you shouldn't,
Yeah, because if you can, who doesn't want to? Like,
exactly.
Trust me, if I have the luxury of hiring somebody to do audio or even just DP for me or anything, I'm doing it every time. Like it just makes everybody's life easier.
Yeah. And so a lot of people, they will like, they'll build their kit up to be a certain thing. Like, a lot of people, they just want to be a DP so that, they get Red Komodo or that, they upgrade from there and they, get these high-end cameras, really good glass, expensive glass and stuff. And they're just a camera guy. And there's nothing wrong with that because if that's what you want to do, that's great. But for people like us, for me, solo filmmaking, I invest in a lot of different things. So I invest in good audio, I invest in good lighting, I invest in a lot of that stuff. So I'm not just booking video gigs. I'm also booking, gigs where I'm a sound mixer. I'm capturing audio. So I'm the guy putting booms up and laving everybody. And so now I have another channel of, revenue that I can make by booking this job because I have the gear for it.
And I think that's like with the boom of social media and freelancing and online stuff is, I think there's a couple caveats. You're able to learn all that because YouTube can teach you all that. I'm sure when you were like, okay, I need to learn how to do audio, the first thing you probably did was went to YouTube. You probably looked into what was the best recorder, best mic, how to do all that, and you have that knowledge. And like the thing about it now versus before is that because as a solo filmmaker, you're competing with the people who have a thirst to learn all that stuff. And they may not be like they may be a jack of all trades and a master of none, but I promise that guy's going to get booked much more often. And so when you're building a kit out, especially as a solo filmmaker, like you say, it's better to sacrifice having maybe the step down camera body. Maybe you spend $1,000 less or $500 less on a camera body to go ahead and purchase yourself a light or a good mic. Because like, if you're getting booked out and someone's like, hey, are you able to lob somebody up? And you go, oh, I can't do that. You probably just lost that job.
Yeah. Going off of what you just said about, being a jack of all trades and a master of none, like that's, I don't want to say like part of it, but whatever. But there's a lot of people that like start in the industry as like a photographer and they move over to videography and they can be really good. But there's also a lot of people that go from photography to videography and they're just not, you know? And a lot of times like people will start shooting video and then they build their gear up. And then next thing you know, like they're transitioning out of video into audio because they enjoy that more. And because they got really good at that, like I wouldn't say mastered, but I've gotten really good at shooting video and a lot like by going off what I said, that equipment is a lot more accessible to us now.
Very much.
So I'm not a master of audio, but 32-bit float saves me.
Yeah, exactly.
So the gear is a lot better, a lot more accessible to us. And so we're able to get really good stuff. Whereas before you'd have to hire somebody. So.
And so, as far as talking about being a solo filmmaker, it's like, what are most of the client? Like I said at the beginning, like I think as of right now, you've established yourself in a different way than I have or a lot of people have, and that's with like working with other production companies. And I don't think people talk about that a lot as far as being a route for filmmaking and income. So like maybe talk about maybe just talk a little bit about how you got into video, not too much, and just mainly more about how did you get established where you're at now?
So I got into video like around 2017. I'm sure you know the story, but I really didn't have any prior knowledge of video or anything like that. I started because my kids wanted to do a YouTube channel, got a camera, and I was really deep into the music scene. So I started shooting music videos for people. And then when I moved to Dallas, the music scene is a lot different out here. And so I started booking a lot of like corporate stuff, a lot of weddings. And, now this is like my passion. I love doing this type of stuff. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And it's definitely, money is definitely a lot better than what it was for music videos. But yeah, so that's kind of like, I guess my backstory. Is that what you were?
Yeah. Because the music video stuff like that. And when I met you, that's what you were doing the most of.
Yeah.
And I think almost every one of us can agree. There's just not a ton of money in that anymore. Especially.
And I feel like music videos are like starting to die. Social media is picking up a lot and music videos on YouTube just aren't hitting like they used to.
People are getting virality off of just like their iPhone songs on TikTok,
make good music, make some good reels. They don't even have to do anything to do with your music. And you can blow up.
It's almost like a music video now. It's just like a creative thing. It's not like a necessity.
I actually just shot a music video, I think last week, where he specifically wanted me to shoot the video for social media.
Yeah.
So it's a really short song, but it's like specifically for social media. So
people know.
Yeah.
That's like the thing.
That's where it's at.
And that's an interesting thing too about the solo filmmaking and stuff is like a lot of the stuff you get hired for is social media. I cannot tell you how many times I get on a call with somebody. I'm like, okay, what's the end goal of this? I'm like, to get more social media presence. We want this thing to be on social media, whatever. People understand that social media is the gateway to virality, to an explosive business, to whatever. And the caveat of that, and it sucks, but sometimes you're going to be filming maybe on a phone, or maybe you're going to turn your $6,000 camera sideways or whatever. But I think with solo filmmaking, what's nice about it as opposed to like on-set work is we have the ability to be as flexible as we want. And so on-set work is never going to go away by any means. There's always going to be big productions needed. The solo filmmaker is always going to be required to adapt into fitting these different roles and molds. And again, especially with social media, it's just like you say, you're making a whole music video for this guy's reels.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thing.
Yeah. And kind of touching back on what we talked about in our last episode about does gear matter? I just did a wedding also last weekend. And when I showed up there, the coordinator had her own little videographer. She had a Sony camera and everything like that. But the bride had hired a girl to shoot specifically for social media. And this girl was going around. She had the iPhone 15 and she had a little gimbal. That's crazy. She just had a battery like power bank that she was just keeping the phone and the gimbal charged. And she was running around filming content all day.
Wow.
So it was like, I mean, although it was the best iPhone that she could have possibly had, social media stuff, she's just shooting with an iPhone. And I was looking at some of the stuff that she was posting because like she had the bride's Instagram. She's posting stuff throughout the day, and the stuff looked amazing.
Yeah.
Dang.
Well, that's what people are. I don't know if a lot of people are on Reddit. I am, unfortunately, on Reddit a lot. And I'm in the videography Reddit page. And it's so gate kept there. And a lot of the discussion and topic that comes up is iPhone video and whether or not it's real videography, yada, yada. And I was having a talk with David Moorfield once, and I was kind of being snooty about it. And he was talking about how this girl is at the UFC thing that he shoots every week. Her job is to get stuff on the phone and get it to social media as fast as possible. You know, if someone gets knocked out, she's getting it, and it goes to social media because they know time is of the essence. Yeah. And I was kind of laughing about it and everything. And he was like, what are you laughing at? Like, she's making money. Like, if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, she's making money. She's filming. Her stuff's good. And now, phones, I don't know that phones will ever, get to like the quality of like our cinema cameras or whatever.
No, they absolutely not, because they absolutely won't, because these sensors are getting a lot better all the time. These cameras are getting a lot better, but phones are definitely like,
they're improving.
They're definitely improving, but the quality is never really going to be the same. However, with like stuff just being posted on social media,
it's perfect. Yeah.
It's totally fine. Like you can get away with that stuff. And so like, again, like the stuff that people are filming nowadays, like you would need a whole team for that back in the days. You know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to get that type of quality, that type of stuff posted, or back in the day, but
you would still. Yeah, that's what's important about solo filmmaking. If you're gonna do it, you really gotta understand the landscape. And I think we're all learning that, because a lot of us get stuck in our ways. I'm very much stuck in my way. I don't like filming on a phone, like unless it's like my son, but
well, that girl, I mean, the photographers, during dinner, like when you break off and go sit in the bridal suite, whatever, and you're eating, the photographers were just like, how much do you charge? And can I add you to our, to our packages? And I'm just going to reach out and see if you're available all these times, because I think you do, and it's great. And I'm just like, dang.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. It's super dope.
She has a phone. She's filming. You can't say she's not a filmmaker. I don't know what her background is. But she's
not like
money.
She's filming stuff that's going to be on Netflix or
of course,
type of stuff. It's not going to be played in the movie theaters, but man, like
she's making a business out of filming.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people, including me, get so lost with that thought. Is this is a business? Like, yeah, we're creative. We want to do things creative. This is a creative endeavor. The documentary this morning we wanted to do was just a creative endeavor. Like, all this stuff is for creative. But creative doesn't pay the bills. I'm not the next Wes Anderson. I'm not the next Steven Spielberg, whatever. I'm just a guy who likes to make things. And I have to know what's going to pay the bills and what's going to fuel my creative endeavors and what's not. And if somebody's going to pay me $1,000 to film a wedding all day on an iPhone, I'm going to be there. Yeah. I'll bring both iPhones. I don't care. Like, it's just business. And then you get good business, you get to do the creative stuff. And I think a lot of people, filmmakers especially, the biggest mistake at the upfront is just trying to be creative and only creative. Like the corporate guy who's going to pay you $1,000 a day to come shoot interviews doesn't care about your creativity. He cares about, can you light this? Can you do good audio? And can you frame this well? If you don't know that, then I've heard people talk about, and I'm curious to see what you think about, like, I've heard a lot of people having bad experiences hiring somebody who makes Instagram reels, creative Instagram reels, who do a really good job on what they're making. Then they get brought onto a set, or they get hired on to film something, and they have no idea how to do it because they spent all their time doing abstract and creative and weird that they don't know how to do a 3-point lighting setup. They don't know how to do an interview setup, or they don't have on-set manners or whatever.
Well,
have you run into that?
They should be hiring somebody like that. Like if they're looking at their work and like, this work is great, but we're looking for something different. Like you should know if you're hiring that person, like this is what they're good at. This is what you're going to get, but you're telling them you want something different. And also that creator should, understand like, hey, this is out of my comfort
be honest
zone. This
about
is
it.
Beyond what I do.
Yeah.
Like, with a lot of the wedding stuff that I do, we have like a formula. Our videos are all fairly similar. So like couples know what they're going to get.
Yep.
And when they reach out to us, like, cause normally our wedding films are around like 4 to 6 minutes. That's our wedding film. It highlights the entire day. And if a couple ever reaches out to us and they're like, oh, can you give us a 20-minute highlight video and all this stuff, and we want more of this stuff, then we send them to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because we know it's going to be difficult dealing with them because they're not going to be happy with what they get because it's out of what we normally do.
Not what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I burnt myself out on weddings because
I'm burning myself out on weddings.
Yeah,
too,
well,
sure.
I don't know.
I think everybody starts to.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who's just like 20 years into the biz, like, this is what I live for.
Yeah,
But
it's
like,
fun. It's fun, but it could be stressful throughout the day. And then I think this the hardest part is finding music to put on the video. It's like the hardest part for me.
Well, that's what a lot of it comes down to. Is like the editing can be monotonous. Shooting it can be monotonous. Like you say, you have a formula. It doesn't matter the venue or the couple. It's like, no, I know what shots I'm gonna get. Like there may be a few surprises here and there.
Yeah.
And then at this point, it's like every wedding thing that isn't just absolutely stylized has been shot 1,000 times. So it's like, even when like, oh, I've got good content here, it's kind of like, yeah, but like, who doesn't have good wedding content at this point? And for me, I burnt myself out on exactly what I was just talking about. So I come from experience because I tried to do every wedding video from a creative angle. Every single one needed to be completely different. And I burnt myself out. I love those videos. Yeah. But it's not something I could ever keep up with because it required so much and just like, yeah, I couldn't do it. Yeah.
So we're kind of rifting off onto weddings and stuff. But although it is still part of like solo filmmaking because as a solo filmmaker, there's so many different avenues. There's so many different things that you can go down. You can film weddings, you can film interviews, you can do event coverage, you can do social media stuff. You could do all this stuff because you have the gear.
Yeah.
Like when I was shooting music videos, and I was mainly shooting music videos. When I moved to Texas, I used to travel back to California a lot to shoot music videos. And I had like all my gear was built around music videos, like, gimbal, a lot of gimbal stuff.
Yeah.
Guilty of that. But my lighting kit was, the Nanlite Pavo tubes, color lights. Yeah. And then I had the 120D Mark II. And I like most of my stuff was built around music videos. But then once I moved here, I had to face that dilemma. Like, okay, the type of gear that I'm buying, do I want to keep going the music video route? Do I want to keep buying stuff for music videos? Or do I want to start branching off and buying more audio stuff so that I can start filming weddings as a second shooter? I was going off second shooting and I was learning like, oh, this is the type of stuff that they're using. This is that, this is this. And then I started getting that stuff. And now I'm like, I'm ready to go as a solo filmmaker.
Well, it was a good pivot. It was a good, because to be honest, it's not like you made yourself any worse of a music video director. If anything, if you got hired for one, now you just have even better equipment for the job. So it's like all you did was really level yourself out. That's the thing about gear is like it's all pretty neutral. It's just a matter of like what gear you have for the job.
Yeah. Also your preferences, like when it comes to like brands and stuff like that, when it comes to Sony or Canon or Nikon, but yeah, like you have good gear and you're capable.
You should be able to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with solo filmmaking, what would be like 3 tips you would give a new solo filmmaker trying to get into the business?
Well, I mean, first of all, like what is it that you're shooting? So, if you're doing corporate stuff like interviews, like you got to have, I would say at least 2 cameras. I'd say at least 2 cameras so you have an A and B angle for interviews because if they're messing up, you have something else to cut to. And then, you know, a good boom mic, decent lav mic, because it's always a good backup to have, and a good light. Realistically,
I don't think I could argue that at all. I think that's literally like perfect. I think people sleep on the lav mics, and they're so cheap now.
Yeah,
$350. You get the DJI lav mic set, the Rode mic set, charging cases. They have like great audio quality. They're super easy to deal with, and I promise you, you're losing out on clients if you don't have a lav set. I cannot tell you how many times people are like, "Do you have a mic, a tripod, or do you have a lav mic, a tripod, and a camera, and a light?" Like those 4 things. You know, it's like you have to have those.
And I've always started purchasing things before I even need them, so that way I'm like, okay, I'm going to get that. It's a good deal. I can get it right now, knowing that I'm not going to use it. I don't need it for a job right now, but I have it down the road. And a lot of times it always comes through where I'm like, I have it. I don't have to order it right now and wait for it to come in the mail. I have it and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. What clients would you prefer? Like if you could pick one client, what client, like type of work?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different type of clients that you can get. You can, you know, I don't know if you want to say like subscription based type thing, but you know, you can go to like certain companies and be like, hey, you know, if you pay me this much money,
like a retainer.
Yeah, like a retainer. You can have them pay a retainer, and then, you know, every month they're paying you, and you're delivering a certain type of content, because a lot of companies just want content for social media right now. You know, you can go that route, or you can do event coverage. You can, there's a lot of different aspects, a lot of different routes you can take.
I think, like, again, going back to like a jack of all trades with your gear, you almost need to get as much experience as you can with what you film as well. And sometimes it can be scary. When I set up that interview, the corporate one, like a week or 2 ago, I was so nervous. I have not done that.
Is it the one you shot out the window?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like there's a couple mistakes you could easily point out in that. You know, I had them framed a little too off to the side. Like, I think the lighting was good, this and that, whatever.
You always nitpick stuff. Like after you're done shooting, you're like, oh, this is so great. And then like when you're looking at it later, you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that.
And I don't know about you, but I send it to people and I tell them specifically, give me feedback. Like, I want to know, because sometimes you'll look at something and you're like, man, this just looks great. And then like, to me, I was like, yeah, he's a little off to the side, but I don't think nothing of it. But then whenever I had like 3 people send me back like, hey, it looks good, he's just a little too off to the side. Where's the A angle? And I'm like, there is no, it's like, this is a single cam setup. And everybody's like, oh, you know, so it's like, it wasn't bad enough to where I'm like, I can never show this footage. It was just like, okay, next time I need to be more aware of that. And yeah, I think it's like important, but like I now have that knowledge, and I knew I had enough knowledge to set up something nice. The client that hired me was very happy with it. And, you know, being nervous to go do a shoot is not something that should keep you from going to do it. Because most of the time, I feel like we have the experience to tackle close to most things that we get hired for. But it's like after you do it that first time, you're like, oh, I could do this every time now.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to have like two cameras. If you don't have 2 cameras, you know, get by with what you got. But I like to give myself, especially if like stuff like that, I like to give myself a little bit of room. So if I'm shooting like an interview and I just have the one camera, I would give myself a little bit of room to crop. I'd be like, just a little bit of safety room, whatever. But like, what was your audio setup like for that?
So it was actually the F6. This is yours, but my F6, and then I just boom pulled it over using my Elgato cam thing that I made. And yeah,
you have the NTG5. Right?
The NTG5, which another mistake apparently I made when I posted it to Reddit for feedback. I kept the dead cat on it, and some guy was like, if you're gonna do an interview, just take the dead cat off it.
Yeah, indoor. So what I've learned, like indoors, yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah.
But if you're ever like outdoors, I usually keep mine on all the time. If I'm gonna do an interview, I'll take it off. But I always just keep it around. Like I have all my mics in this case back here. And I just keep my dead cats on them and I don't use like the foam cover, whatever that comes with the Rhodes, whatever. I just throw those in a drawer. I don't ever use those. It's either not using a dead cat or I'm using a dead cat.
Yeah, that's
if you use it indoors. Yeah, no biggie. I think what I learned is it adds like more bass to the voice.
Yeah, so I said it cuts the highs or something like that, which, let's be honest, like that's a little just kind of like who's gonna notice unless you're really listening, but it's still a good tip. It's like, oh, that's good to know, you know, because it's just like you're a little better for it. Because next time I will take it off. Like, why not? If I can have a little bit better audio quality, why not? So
I think what it is like with solo filmmaking, like we start to hit these like these plateaus, like because early on for me it was like, oh, do I really like at the beginning I was like, do I really need 4K? Because 1080 is great.
Yeah.
And then you hit this point where you're just like, I'm gonna transition over to 4K.
Yeah, I need 4K.
And so like with the audio, it's like, is anyone really noticing? And then like down the road, you're like, I'm starting to notice it. And so I'm gonna upgrade this and I'm gonna do that. Yeah. So you start to take those steps into like into noticing that type of stuff. But at first you're always like, it's a little blue, like, big whoop, whatever. I'll just fix it in post. And then later on, you're like, not going to happen. We're going to fix it right now.
Well, it's like white balance. It's like, I used to just auto white balance.
I used to auto white balance for everything.
Yeah, it lived on my
I used to be kind of scared to like actually, do like color temperature.
Set it yourself.
I used to be nervous to do that until I was on a shoot and the guy was like, this is how we're going to do it. Yeah. And I was like,
well, once you learn the main temperatures, and look, this is the thing for me. Is like 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm like, I'll start at 56 and I'll go up or down. I'm like, it's a little cool, warm it up. It looks good. Yeah. Like I would ship that. And so like, I think that's when I started feeling better about it. Is like, it's not like a perfect number you have to find. It's like in a controlled setting, sure, everything should be close to the same or whatever. Or as far as the cameras go, this should be the same. But when I'm out shooting events and stuff and I'm going from the stage, I mean, I'm sure you dealt with the same thing at the Halo event. It's like you go on stage and it's like
back room.
Yeah, it's like you're shooting on people.
I didn't even want to shoot in the back room because it was just too dark back there. Yeah, and I feel like I'm too intrusive if I put a light on top of my camera. Yeah, you can't. Like nobody else does that. Yeah. I wouldn't. I thought about it. I was like, I wonder if I could get away. And I was like, I'm not even gonna try. Yeah. Nobody else out here has a light. No, I'm not even gonna try to put nothing up. It's just like.
But those scenarios, it's like, I'm probably gonna run majority white balance, like auto white balance, because like it does.
Oh, so you were running auto?
Well, mine doesn't have technically auto. It has the white balance set button.
Yeah.
But I'm doing that 9 times out of 10, and if it was really off, then I'm dialing it in. But
yeah. So on my camera, like you have aperture, and then you have shutter speed on the 2 knobs.
Yeah.
Like one in your thumb, one in your finger. I don't know which one's which. I guess you can switch it, whatever. And then I got the ISO wheel. I switch mine. I never use shutter, or I never really change my shutter or my f-stop. And if I need to, it's a quick, like, it's a 2-step thing.
That's what I need to do.
But I have mine, like my white balance is my thumb wheel. And so like anytime I'm in a room, I'm like scrolling that wheel really quick, get it close to what it needs to be. I'm not so much focusing on magenta shift and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to get to a point where I'm going to be like, where I will.
And I think that's a lot of like a set shoot you're doing. Yeah. Like, it's like, it's not like you don't have time for that at an event or something like that, for the most part, unless it's like filming a stage. But
quick run and gun stuff like that. Yeah, you get it close and you just roll with it.
Yeah.
But interviews, like you're setting up interviews and you're able to control everything. Mm-hmm. I've got this like color. What is it called? The color checker.
Yeah, the color checker. The white card.
Yeah, I want to start using that thing.
It's really nice. It's like, especially the white card, because like for mine with that having that button on the front, all I have to do is just angle it at the light so it's shining it, hit the button, and it locks it in for me. So that's even something that's so small you keep in your pocket. It's like, even if I'm on stage, I can just like do it real quick if I have a second. So it's like a good piece of gear to have that you might think is dumb or whatever. I've seen people use printer paper. Like, that stuff's so expensive for no reason. But I think it's like, again, like you say, it's just as you go. It's like a patience thing too. You just patiently learn. Don't cram it all in. Don't feel like you have to like cram it all in. Like,
I've definitely bought a bunch, like some dumb stuff, but like the color checker, I haven't used it yet, but I feel like it'd be pretty beneficial. Like when I start using it, if I do.
Well, it's this. I mean, it's like
it's small.
It's tiny. Like there's no reason not to have it.
And they have like an app too, like where you can open it up. You take a quick little video of it, and then I know that you can like highlight the squares, and it'll color correct.
Yeah, DaVinci
your footage. Yeah. And so I'd love to be able to do that and try that out. But I've never been on a shoot where like, all right, now I'm gonna bust that out. But I just started busting this out, the slate, so I'm able to like, because before, doing interviews, I'd have them spell their name, say their name, spell their name, what's your role. So that way, if we add lower thirds, they know how to spell their name. Now I just pull this out, I write have them write their name down, and then they love, slating it.
See, that's funny because I do the spelling name thing. More
comfortable.
Yeah,
get one of those, dude.
I got a cheap one, but I definitely want one of those.
I learned that from Reese.
Oh,
photographer. Yeah, he had his, and he had like, he would put the Renegade, and then he'd have him hold it or whatever.
That's a good idea.
And then so that way he knew like, okay, Renegades photos start now.
And it's so universal, like you say, like people are gonna be like, oh, sick, like you know, who doesn't like?
And they get a little bit more comfortable too.
Yeah,
They're like, oh wow, this is cool.
Kind of loosens them up a little. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and so and then sometimes like you'll even throw that in the video, like depending on.
I know, like when we did the Unlocked episode for Formal, they had me do the slate. I think they did it for all of them, but I specifically remember Formal. Yeah, they had him. Or they had my hand.
You got your what is it? Leonardo DiCaprio on.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, what?
Hey, that's my hand. I'm famous.
That's funny.
It was cool though. But yeah, like solo filmmaking too. I think one of the biggest things you could do is get on other people's sets. PA.
Yeah.
I offer myself as BTS a lot. It's been working here lately for me. It's like, hey, I'll come shoot BTS for you, photo, video, whatever. Either pay me a little bit, or depending on the set, or I'll just be like, hey, let me just come hang out, shoot BTS.
Yep.
Because I have that footage I can look at. But when you shoot BTS, you just get to watch. Like,
yeah, I did BTS quite a few times. I did. So I even when I was living here actually. I think I was living here, and I traveled out to California. I was in Bakersfield because that's where I'm from. And then Tyler Casey, he's a music video director up in like the Bay Area, and he had posted like looking for somebody, and I was like, yo, I can come out right now. It was like a 4-hour drive. But it's part of the grind, you know, like I'm trying to get my name out there. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to be on these sets and stuff. And it was for Cool John, and it was a pretty dope shoot. And I went out there, shot it for free. You know, he fed me. He gave me some Cinepack like filters that he had.
Oh, that's cool.
Because this was like early on Cinepack days. And and then we, chop it up every now and then. And then I went out to another shoot that he did. I learned a lot. I met a lot of cool people. Hatch, a lot of other guys, and just learned a lot of stuff from being on set with them, like what type of lights they're using.
Yeah.
And then I think it was early on, like when they had, I think he had a 300. Hatch had the lighting system, so he had like what are they called? Not the Pavo tubes, but the Titan tubes.
Oh yeah,
he had Titan tubes, and he was talking about how he rents them out and all this stuff. It was picking up.
You got to learn a lot. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely learned a lot. And so then also like a lot of opportunities came from that too. And then also when I moved out here, I did some BTS for Prophecy, and I learned a lot of stuff, a lot of lights that he used. He put me up on game for the Pavo tubes. So early on, I knew about the Titan tubes. I knew how crazy expensive they were. And Prophecy put me up on the Pavo tubes, and I ended up getting those. And then I learned about the airy lights and stuff like that, and swinging them around the back in the background and stuff like that. And I picked up a lot of game from him too. And you learn a lot.
It's just like tips and tricks. And then obviously
he called me a lot to do other stuff too after that. So it was pretty dope.
I think that's a great segue into probably the last thing we'll talk about is the proper way to gain exposure for yourself. Because we all hear it, like people hit you up like, hey, can you do this for exposure? And it's like, it doesn't pay the bills, but you do have to do it. I still do it. I'll do it all day long if I think it's a cool set, cool shoot. I just made a YouTube video vlogging my experience on a production where everybody there was for free. It was a spec ad, and I got to be around cool people. But it's like when you do it properly for free, for networking, for all that, you will 100% set yourself up for success, both with knowledge and with people. Because when I show up to BTS and I'm on my FX6, it makes people ask questions. Like people are like, "What the? You're shooting a BTS," and then they're talking like, "What do you do outside of this?" Blah blah blah. And so. Yeah,
that's how you got in with Space Station too, because you started off as an editor for them, and then didn't you start shooting stuff and sending it to them?
Yeah, so I was editing for their TikToks. They needed somebody who knew Rainbow Six. It was like 2 TikToks a day. So every Monday I would grind out a week's worth of TikToks for them, and I was just like steady waiting for my opportunity to be like, hey, I shoot video. I want to come film the Rainbow Six team, whatever. The first time I had mentioned it, this is like right at the height of COVID. It was like, hey, probably not going to work. Thanks for asking, but TikToks are cool. And they ended up sending us a free SCUF controller for Christmas. I went out in my garage, shot this video, whatever. I was like, I'm going to show them I can do it because that's the best business card. I sent it to them, and I think I was on a flight a week later filming my first esports documentary recap for the SSG Rainbow Six team. And from there, it just skyrocketed. Like opportunities just skyrocketed. But like that was one of those situations. Like technically, it's not for free. Like they're technically paying me, but they're not paying me for what I was doing. So it's like, here's a free video. They posted it to Twitter. All that. I was just a contractor. And that turned into a full-time job with them for 3 years, filming, going to Saudi Arabia, Canada, Mexico, Sweden, all these different things. So it's like, if I never would have went out into my garage and just been like, hey, I make videos, like, give me a chance.
Yeah.
100% they would have hired somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And so
I think that's a big part of like solo filmmaking is like getting yourself on set, like to PA or to do BTS and stuff like that. That way you can learn a lot about what set life is like,
yeah,
and then what everyone's job entails, like what type of equipment people are using and stuff like that. And you really get to learn, and then job opportunities can come from that.
Yeah.
And then, plus like you learn a lot more from that as well.
Well, like Cinema Story here in Dallas, I've been doing a lot of stuff with them. So I heard of them at their Alchemy Filmmaker event, went there, they had skateboarders there, shot a video, and I knew I wanted to get in front of them. And I was like, the best way to do it is make a dope video of the event and then just send it to them.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. They loved it. Both of them hit me up. Again, I talked about it in that same vlog. And then from there, they were like, hey, let's talk. We want to add you to our crew of people. And I did the spec ad shoot for free.
Yep.
And then I got 2 paid gigs out of them. All this is like big set stuff I've never done in my life. Did another spec ad for free. And now they're talking about wanting to put me on their wedding list as far as like people who shoot weddings, and they pay very fairly. And so it's like, it just all because I went to that event and made that free video, it opened up a massive door. They never had heard of me, obviously. They don't know who I am. Me reaching out and saying, hey, dude, I'm a videographer too. They're going to go, cool. So is everybody else that DMs us, right? So it's like the best business card isn't the one you hand to people. It's the one you show people. Like, hey, look at my work. And then they're going to go, oh, the firearms client, that we're talking to right now, 100% based off the work that's on my Instagram. Yeah. Reached out to them, offered up what I thought was a good idea, a fair trade. They looked at the work and they're like, you're the guy we want to work with. So it's like posting as a solo filmmaker is key. You have to post your work, putting out work to other people to show them, knowing when to do something for free that can lead to like opportunity, and just understanding when to do a free job, when the exposure is proper. And that's the best way to grow. Be patient. Just grow your network.
Yeah. So I think, to circle back to like, can you make it as a solo filmmaker? Right. And like, I think you absolutely can. Just get your gear right, figure out what it is that you want to do. And yeah, work towards that. And there's lots, and don't think that that's the only thing you have to work towards. There's lots of other avenues that you can go down. And
do you think it's fair to say though that it is very difficult to become a full-time solo filmmaker?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, no. I do know a lot of people that like started getting into video and then fall off, like because of life. You need to have a full-time job, or you need to do this, and you don't have the time. But I don't like.
I think it's a tough one. I genuinely think it's difficult.
If it's what you want, like,
of course. I mean, just like anything in life, you got to go for it.
Fight for it.
You got to earn it and everything. It is a grind. Like, trust me, it's a grind. But like, in my full honesty, if it wasn't for my wife, having a second income, like I wouldn't be a full-time filmmaker. There's no way. I don't make near enough to do that, especially with a kid or whatever. Like, maybe if I was living by myself in a cheap apartment, I could make it work. But just in full transparency, it is very difficult. And it's like the position I'm in right now is that I'm blessed to be able to be patient. And so for me, it's just year over year, working for as many people as I can so that they'll continue to call me back. And so that way, this year's clients, they'll call me next year while I'm looking for my next set of clients. And so then 4 or 5 years later, I'm not looking for work or whatever. I'm just constantly getting called and booked. And that was some of the best advice I got from another filmmaker who's doing really well. It's just first year, just say yes to everything. Build your network, build your clientele, get your work out there, and just have a dope website, demo reel.
Yes, that's important. I know. And it's rough too, because a lot of people always ask, like, depending on what type of work they're looking for, they want a demo reel for everything.
Just that.
Yeah, they send me your wedding demo reel, or send me your music video demo reel. I have a music video demo reel, or director's reel is what I call it, or whatever. But I just have that, and I haven't done one like in a while, because most of that stuff is all corporate stuff.
Right.
I just have my webpage with a couple interviews that I've done, and I've got, you know, some renovations, like house stuff.
Yeah.
I have some of those videos posted on there, and then I also have a link to all of my gear, and I keep that updated all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to do something like that, so you don't have to type it out and send it to anybody, kit.co.
Oh yeah.
So kit.co.
Yeah.
You can go on there. It's free, and you can add all the gear that you have. It puts an Amazon link so people can actually click on it. They can go and buy it. And then you can also get some kickback from that.
That's cool.
Depending on how
yeah,
how active you are on it. I think it's like the Amazon affiliate program.
Yeah, the affiliate. Yeah, I use it.
If you're super active on there, you know, they'll give you some kickback and stuff. But I think it's important to have, just because of the fact that when people reach out and they're like, you know, what are you shooting with? Well, here's a list of my gear. Go check it out.
Here's all of it.
Everything. Yeah. And I keep it updated all the time. Anytime I get something new or sell something, I go on the site, I update it. That way people can see pretty much.
And it's another stream of revenue if you really think about it. Now, it's not like something that's going to pay your bills, but it could be like, you know, coffee money. Last piece of advice I have is that with the Amazon affiliate links, I make the YouTube videos. So all my equipment in there is Amazon affiliate links. Someone taught me that when someone clicks on that link, that the cookie for that affiliate link stays in their browser for 2 days. So even if they go look at this tripod and then they don't buy it and they come back tomorrow and they buy a basketball, you get a kickback on the basketball.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So
it's because they clicked on your link and they added stuff to their cart, and then because you sent them to Amazon, you get that kickback.
And it's, you know, it's not sneaky anyway. Like, it's not like I'm gaining really anything, like, or you're losing anything or whatever. It just,
it's actually a good way to help
both.
It's good. It's a good way to help people that, like, you know, you learn a lot from. So if you're watching people on YouTube and you see that they have an affiliate link, go click on it and then buy whatever it is that you're going to buy. If you're going to buy something, go click on someone's affiliate link first.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of kickback.
Yeah.
It's not like you're paying more.
Right.
You're just taking an extra 30 seconds out of your time to go to YouTube.
It's like a tip.
Yeah. Go click on their link and go buy something.
Yeah.
You know, it helps them out. They can keep giving you more content. You can keep learning from it.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have a link here pretty soon for Film Club.
Yeah. And it's motivating.
Yeah.
I have like $13 in my affiliate account off my YouTube page. Really? When I first saw 13, I was like, yo, like, you were actually buying stuff? This is sick.
Yeah, I know I got an affiliate link with Cord Bag.
Yeah.
And I got some money in there too. But I'm just going to use it to buy more gear from them. You know,
exactly.
Realistically. So if I ever need some more stuff, but yeah, so I mean, I guess if you guys have any questions about solo filmmaking or anything that you guys want to learn, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below.
Yeah.
Go ahead and let us know.
We'd love to hear from you if you made it this far.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to try to make these episodes a little bit shorter. The first one was a learning process, and me and Jared can talk.
Yeah.
And so we definitely want to keep these around an hour long. And if you guys tune in and watch the whole thing, we really appreciate you guys for hanging in there. But yeah, we're gonna keep knocking these podcasts out. We're probably gonna switch the location up all the time. We'll probably be back at Jared's house.
Yep.
Be here at my house. Try to find some cool locations that we can just go to and shoot some stuff, but definitely film orientated. But yeah, let us know what you guys think about the podcast. Anything else you guys want to hear? You guys want some more topics for the next episode? I think we want to look for getting some guests on here too.
Oh yeah, definitely want to get some guests on here if we can figure out how to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think like keeping it all within the whole realm. Like maybe we'll get like, you know, a gaffer in here. We'll get you know,
PAs,
set designers,
producers, set
all that type of
designers,
stuff. Yeah.
audio guys, like just spreading knowledge, getting tidbits of information, and especially hearing their journey of how they got to that point could really help a lot of people, because you start filmmaking and then you realize like, oh, maybe I don't like doing like filmmaking. Maybe I really like being like an assistant camera op, or maybe I want to be a cam op or a director or a producer. Like the roles.
And that goes back to like what you were saying too, like getting on set, being on set, that you might be asked like, hey, do you know how to pull focus? You know what I mean? It's like, actually, shit, give me a try, you know? And the next thing you know, they're calling you because you did a really good job.
Right.
And now you're, you know, you're pulling focus all the time, and that's your role, and you're making good money doing that, and 100%. You're able to work more toward doing what you want to do.
For sure.
But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to see a guest on here. If you guys want to hear from a certain someone that's in a certain position, let us know. And
I think that's it.
I think that's it. That's it for episode number 2. Peace.
Drops mic.